Hi, and welcome back to my little corner on the internet. Hello, everybody. Today I wanted to discuss some classic literature that has left a lingering impact on me, and I wanted to give you reasoning as to why briefly, and I'm going to provide a quote as well to kind of encapsulate the book and why it's kind of stuck with me. These are some of my favorite classics, and I just thought I'd recommend some because I asked on my Instagram a little bit ago about what sort of videos you guys wanted to see, and I got quite a few about, classics recommendations and books that just, like my favorite books and books that like left a lasting impact. And so I thought I would combine the two and give you some of my favorite classics because they have stuck with me very much. I actually have notes that I took because I wanted to make sure that I hit all my points. So if I'm occasionally glancing away, it's because I'm referring to my notes so that I also can find the page that I want to refer to. But anyways, we're just gonna get right into it. Oh my gosh, I need to sneeze. Okay. Let's get into it. It is very likely that I have probably mentioned a few of these already because I talk about books that I like, I'm not gonna talk about books that I don't like. So there's a very high chance that I have mentioned these before. Let's just do that. I slept with my hair wet and I didn't want to do it today. So it's, anyways, we're gonna start off. I think I mentioned this book recently, maybe. I don't know actually. That is The Lost Estate by, it's French, Alain Fournier. I absolutely adore this book. I read it this year and it's become one of my favorites. I can't stop recommending it. I can't stop thinking about it. I still think about it. And the sort of thoughts that it made me sort of think about, it's every day I think about them, and it's such a great book. It is his only piece of writing, I'm pretty sure, because I think he passed away at war or something like that. I could be wrong. But this book is basically just about the sort of whimsy, the wonders of adolescence, and the sort of beautiful drive for discovering things and having fun and going on adventures. And the narrator basically recounts his adolescence with his friend Le Grand Moulin. I could be saying that wrong again, sorry. But it's kind of a look back into his past, and the story sort of transitioned into this beautiful sort of painful nostalgia where he both admires and is grateful for this past, but is also accepting of the fact that, this sort of youthfulness is gone. And it was just so beautifully written. I remember I wrote down how it felt reading this. I said, reading the last few chapters was like looking through a frosted window of a home, holding all the people and experiences you cherish. Outside, you freeze over, but you're okay with it because everyone and everything is warm and protected by the burning fire of a fir tree wood. That's essentially how this felt. It was so beautiful. And I think as a young person sort of entering their 20s who is constantly sort of thinking back to adolescence and how that's slowly becoming further away, it was such an essential book for me to read, I think, at this point in my life. And I am so incredibly grateful that this exists. And I want to read it again, and I will never stop talking about it. I absolutely love it so much. And I wrote down a quote I really liked from this book. Maybe it'll convince you to read it if I haven't already. And I who have lost my day, what right do I have to wish that tomorrow comes? It's just so beautiful, It made me really cherish the fact that I need to live more in the present. Everything is so fleeting, and it's kind of really sad, but it's also exciting. That is my first recommendation. The next one, listen, this is a holy brick of a book. That is The Brothers Karamazov by Fyodor Dostoevsky. I used to be incredibly petrified about getting into Russian literature because I know that these motherfuckers love to yap, and there's so much. The names are confusing. It's a lot. But Lord, do I like it now. I really enjoy it. And this book felt like such a unique experience. And it's genuinely, have I read every book in the world? No. But do I think this is one of the greatest pieces of literature out there and that everyone should read it at some point in their lives? Yes. I don't care if the plot doesn't start until like 500 pages in. It is so worth reading every single page. I'm not even joking. It has everything from philosophical and religious debates to romance drama to murder and its court and everything. And it's such an in-depth book. And I think one of the main things that I really liked was how each brother in this story sort of represents a sort of different system of thinking. And it was just so incredibly mind-bending. It was amazing. Like, I can't stress it enough. It genuinely just makes you think about everything. And he's just a master at writing. And a quote that I want to share, and I know it's a lot. I know it's like a 1,000 plus page book, but it's really good. It's really good. Here it is. In the majority of instances, human beings, even the evildoers among them, are far more naive and straightforward than we suppose, and that includes ourselves. Next, as you may have guessed, because I've mentioned this many times, is Nausea by Jean-Paul Sartre. If you know me, I really like existentialism, absurdism. It's something that's really sort of changed my perspective on how I carry myself and go about life and how I think about everything. It's become a sort of very freeing feeling to have it become such an integral part of my being. This novel is essentially a grand tour of the mind. You know, this writer is grappled with this overbearing, nauseating feeling of existentialism, and he's trying to understand this concept of freedom and does anything have any inherent meaning? What does it mean to exist? And he just sort of spirals into this crazy sort of very observational time of his life. And it was just so well done. I absolutely loved this book. It is in a sort of diary entry style, and I couldn't put this down. Every page was perfection. And a quote that I will share from this book. Never have I felt as strongly as today that I was devoid of secret dimensions limited to my body, to the airy thoughts which float up from there like bubbles. I build my memories with my present. I am rejected, abandoned in the present. I try in vain to rejoin the past, and I cannot escape from myself. I'm just saying. If you're interested in philosophy at all, this is a great sort of starting point, I'd say. I think I haven't mentioned this book in a hot second, I don't think, but that is Perfume by Patrick Suskind. I read this a few years back, actually. I remember really enjoying this because I think when I read this, I was at a point in my life where I was very by myself a lot of the time. And so much of this book, at least to how I interpreted this character just has this intense desire to be acknowledged and to feel like he belongs somewhere and to just be wanted and seen. But this sort of idea was told through the story of this guy who kind of spirals into this obsessive need to create this perfect scent as a way to sort of seduce and manipulate people into committing sort of morally ambiguous things. But all of its underlying themes and ideas, it just made it such an incredible read. The prose in this is incredibly beautiful. It is mesmerizing. And if you enjoy reading sort of darker books, this is great. And especially now, I know it's a bit late because it's end of October, but if you want to just stay at home and read something on Halloween, this is good. This is really good. Yeah, oddly enough, given the things that this character does, it was oddly relatable. Sorry, but it's true. And a little quote for you guys to encapsulate this book for you. Until now, he had thought that it was the world in general he had wanted to squirm away from. But it was not the world, it was the people in it. You could live, so it seemed, in this world devoid of humanity. Amazing. Next, I don't see like anyone talking about this book ever. At least maybe that's just how it came to be because of my algorithm or whatever, but I never see people talking about it, and I had never heard of it until I was browsing the bookstore a bit ago. And I picked this up because it seemed like an easy sort of bittersweet book. Boy, was I wrong. That is All My Cats by Bohumil Habal. I can't pronounce his last name. I am very sorry, but this is an incredible little modern classic, and essentially it just follows this old man. It's the sort of end of his life living in the countryside in Prague, and it is his experience with living with this litter of kittens. As bittersweet as it may sound, it is the sort of telling of this man sort of spiraling into insanity and kind of losing himself whilst taking care of these kittens. It's a very sort of dark and sinister narrative of this man's sort of Dionysian facets that unravels upon his sort of morally ambiguous acts. And it got me thinking a lot about what do we cherish as something valuable in life? Why do we care about certain things? Why do we place value on certain things and others not? And why is it such a subjective, unique experience to do that? And I thought it was just very well done. I couldn't put this down. Like, you can read this in a day, but it is quite good because so much of these ideas are implicit. It's just, it leaves you sitting with this really uncomfortable feeling the whole time you're reading it, but it was really, really great. And a quote, I only marked one quote in this book, although I'm sure if I read it again, I would find more things to note. Here it is. This quote really stuck with me. I think it was really beautifully written. And it was here on public transit that I came to understand why artists love suffering and why poets and painters drink themselves into a stupor. It's because they need to suffer in order to see more clearly, so that when they reach the bottom, they might catch a glimpse of what others do not see, something that touches the very essence of a human being and the world around him. I highly, highly recommend this. If you want something quick to get you sort of out of a slump, perhaps, and you enjoy classics and you enjoy reading about these sort of things, All My Cats. And lastly, I have mentioned this book before, and especially this writer. I have mentioned her a lot, but I will have to point you to Água Viva by Clarice Lispector. Gente do céu, como ela é boa! I absolutely love Lispector. I think she's honestly one of my favorite writers now. After I picked up this book and I read it for the first time, I was dumbfounded. Because why haven't I read you sooner? Like, why didn't I start reading you before? This is amazing. This book is very fluid. It is very avant-garde in the sense that there is no solid plot. It is very much a stream of consciousness. It very much pushes the sort of boundaries of what literary philosophical fiction can be. It is an insane and weird and poetic reflection on life and the self and existence, and it is so well done. I think the reason why it stuck with me so much is because oftentimes when I'm sort of, I guess, disassociating in a bit, like in a way, I struggle to grapple this weird sensation that I get into in the fact that, wow, I am a living, breathing, conscious being. And it's a very specific feeling and these very specific thoughts that I can't necessarily put into words oftentimes. But when I read this, somehow she managed to put all these feelings that I couldn't verbally communicate through her prose. And I fell in love. Absolutely fell in love. I will say her writing isn't for everyone. If you enjoy sort of more traditional, structure and language, this might be a bit difficult to get into and you might not enjoy it as much. But if you do enjoy sort of all the unique and poetic prose, this is great. She is an amazing writer. The book itself is it's very rhetorical, it's angelic, and it kind of exists in this weird liminal space of a person's consciousness, which is why I loved it so much. And a quote that I will read to you, although I marked many parts of this book, a quote that I made note of. I am transfiguring reality. What is it that's escaping me? Why don't I reach out my hand and take it? It's because I only dreamed of the world but never saw it. But yes, absolutely love it. Please go read it. Get into Clarice. Those are some of my favorite classics and some of my recommendations for all my thinkers out there. I hope that maybe you got some recommendations out of this and that it's gotten you excited to get into classics maybe. I absolutely adore all of these books and I definitely want to reread all of them at some point, especially The Lost Estate. I think I can't stop thinking about that book. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed. If you want to be a part on polls and making requests for videos, you can follow my Instagram. I try and be more active on there a lot of the time. That's the video for today. I hope you guys have a beautiful, magical, wonderful day, night, week, month, whatever it may be. And I will see you guys in the next video.